Show, taking your business from seed to sapling to towering giant with your hosts, best-selling author and business growth experts Noah Fleming and Shawn Veltman. This is the only show that gives you proven, pragmatic, and immediately applicable business growth strategies every week in 15 minutes or less. Here's Noah and Shawn.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about a really interesting topic, and Shawn, my co-host, is here. Hello, Shawn. How are you?
Noah, I am wonderful. Can't wait for today's topic.
Well, Shawn, you're going to love this. I've wrote about this. I've spoken to you about this because I've had challenges with this, and you've certainly seen this in your work. But let me get right into it. So first, a really quick story, and I know our time is limited here because we keep these short and sweet, but two stories. One, I was with a client at an event. I was speaking to their entire sales team, and one of the things they had done before the event was they secret shopped the company. So they would record the company, phone calls, inbound calls to the company, and the caller would say something like, I'm just curious, but does your business do X? Or, I'm just wondering, but do you guys do this? Do you offer this? And the answer, 90% of the time, Shawn, was incorrectly given. No, we don't do that. No, we don't offer that. No, that's not in our wheelhouse. 9 times out of 10. So first off, before I give you the second story, Shawn, I will ask you, does that shock you?
It hurts me, but it doesn't shock me.
So the second story, it's not really as good and as exciting, but it happens to do with a prospect that reached out to me. And he said, we need more leads. We need more marketing. We need more sales. We need more opportunities. We need all of this stuff coming in. And then what I found out is this guy had more leads coming in than they could handle. So while he wanted more marketing, more efforts, more inbound opportunities. They had so many opportunities coming in, but at least 50% of them were just falling through the cracks. So I always say your leads are leaking, right? We talk about this theory of the leaky bucket theory and this metaphor where a great business is like a bucket of water. Well, all these leads are leaking. So Shawn, what do you think about this? What can we do about this? How can we help our listeners today?
For those who aren't familiar with it, the leaky bucket analogy is pretty simple. And it basically just says, imagine that all of leads and new customers are like water coming into a bucket. And you have processes in your business that are there to keep them, or you don't. And the worse you are at keeping these leads or following up with these leads or these customers, the more they leak out the bottom before you can make any money from them. And so there's 2 ways to get your bucket filled up. One is to keep cranking up the tap and trying to get more and more flowing in so that no matter how quick they leak out, there's enough coming in to fill it up. And the second is to actually patch the holes in your damn bucket and take a little bit of time and figure out, if we've got a 20% attrition rate, why do we have a 20% attrition rate? And in many, many cases, Noah, I think you and I can both agree on, 99 out of 100 times, it's so much easier to do the work to fix the holes in your bucket than to crank that tap up.
I'm reminded of another client a prospect who told me they weren't following up on any business that they had quoted for. And it was to the tune of something like $60 million a year. And we helped them build a very simple follow-up process that simply required the salesperson to answer the question, did you follow up? Yes or no? And so this sort of plugged that hole. I mean, would that be a good example of plugging one of the holes in their bucket?
I think that's a great hole. And I think, that's a lot of the work that we do, whatever the specifics are, the general idea of it is almost always around fixing the holes in the bucket so that no matter what the incoming flow is, that you're not losing any more than you should be. And I think this idea of lead generation and how you're handling new leads that come in is incredibly important. To bring us back to the first story that you had, this tells me a couple of things about that organization. One is that they haven't spent nearly enough time training the people who are answering the phones. And so the poor people answering the phones are doing their best, but they just don't have the knowledge or the understanding of what's going on. And they don't have a sense of how much revenue this means to the company that they're turning away. And you and I talked about this. There's a really easy way to fix that without any training. We could teach them one line that would probably save them half of those leads, which is instead of saying no, to say, I don't know about that. Let me transfer you to Mike. He's our specialist in that area with 15 years of experience, and he'd be happy to have this conversation with you. Give me one moment.
That's brilliant. So, and the crazy, most mind-boggling thing that I mentioned there was that they recorded these calls, they played them at the sales event, and it was sort of a fun, lighthearted thing that was going on. But the point I didn't tell you there is that these were calls recorded just in a 2-week period. This was a $1 billion publicly traded organization. And the CEO and the president were in the room. And, and I said, guys, we got to fix this. This is scary. How many millions of dollars of revenue is being left on the table, is being lost strictly because, right, we're answering the question instead of saying what you just said, which was brilliant. Let me transfer you to our specialist, Mike, who can answer that for you. So I think, again, the key point that I'm trying to make here is that every business has a lot of leads, I would wager. And I would ask you to think about, are you confident that all the leads are being handled appropriately? And you have some experiences with this too, if I recall.
In just about every business that I work with, and I'm sure it's the same with you, the salespeople always want more leads. Management is always rightfully leery to pay for more marketing, not sure what's going on. I was working with a company where they did a lot of investing in online leads through their website, through Craigslist and Kijiji and various other iterations of that. And when I did a quick analysis, it turned out that over 50% of those leads weren't being entered into the CRM.
Ooh, I just got shudders from that. It gave me the jitters.
Yeah, I mean, salespeople might have been calling them, maybe not, but management had no way of knowing. So, again, you talk a lot about process and what can we do to fix the holes in the bucket. And we both talk a lot about the importance of measuring. So the very first thing I did there was implement a system that sent an email to the sales manager and the salesperson every day, letting them know how many unentered leads there were. And if it went too long, it kept going up the management chain. And very, very quickly, once this started happening, the unentered leads dropped from
right.
50% down to 2.5%.
They stopped dropping once they started getting up the chain to management.
Exactly. Once they knew that people were watching how these leads were being handled.
It's again my experience that none of this is rocket science either. I mean, I gave you the example of the prospect who said they weren't following up on $60 million worth of quoting. He told me the story that they were going to invest something, north of $250,000 in a new CRM and a new ERP system that would handle this. And my response to him was, again, you can fix this with one simple question. Did you follow up? Yes or no? And if not, let's inform management that these are the leads that do not have a follow-up, that need to be responded to, that need to be given a next action date or something to ensure that they're not just falling through the cracks.
And that's really it, Noah. I think the most dangerous misconception that both you and I hear quite a bit is that, well, that seems too simple to work. Or, that's a simple idea. There must be a good reason we're not doing that already. And in almost every case, there isn't. Or if there ever was, that reason is long past. And so, I know a lot of small companies end up getting large company envy where they think, oh, if only we had the kind of money to put into resources and tools and systems like those giants do, we'd be set. And big companies get small company envy where they say, oh, if only we could make decisions as quickly as they do and pivot as quickly as they do, we'd be absolutely unstoppable. And the truth is that in both companies, we end up seeing the same kind of fundamental mistakes or gaps over and over again. And both have really simple and easy ways to fix these. It has nothing to do with size or revenue or what you have to invest in systems. In almost every case, it just has to do with the will of management and the know-how to put it into place.
So without going down a rabbit hole, one of our favorite books on this topic, which you've mentioned, Simplicity, especially in large organizations where they say, could it be this simple, is Dr. Atal Gawande's Checklist Manifesto, which is, again, for anybody that hasn't read this book, you should go out and grab a copy, but it tells the story about how a simple checklist changed the way that hospitals conducted themselves and that surgeries were performed, and they were able to create, I think it was a 30% reduction in hospital illnesses and deaths across the board anywhere they put into place this one simple checklist. And again, there was a lot of pushback on that, right? That it can't be this simple, or I'm not going to do something this simple because I'm a surgeon. I already know how to do this better. But the reality was, wherever they put that into place, it was that simple.
And interestingly, I was talking to a doctor just the other night, and I brought up to him in this offhand way, we were talking a little bit about the history of medicine, and I talked about how amazing the discovery of hand washing was, and clinical trials, and, the first one on the ships for scurvy. And so I offhandedly mentioned, how the checklist is so important and was so fought against by doctors. And he said to me, well, they're a waste of time, aren't they?
Yeah, there you go.
And, I handed him a copy of the book, but I was amazed that even today, young doctors are still not sold on the importance of it, even with that 30% reduction in deaths. So, it's the same thing in every organization. People don't want to believe that simple tools and simple structures can help them because they want to believe that what they do is so ungodly complex that only they in their infinite wisdom can do it without help. And it's just wrong.
It's so wrong. So here's how we like to end every show, which I want to do right now because I think we're ending on a high note here, is we always like to give a weekly challenge. And so I'm going to propose one or two. And then Shawn, if you want to add to anything here, you can. But I ask two very simple questions. One is, again, how confident are you that all your leads and opportunities aren't falling through the cracks? And do you know specifically, can you answer with full confidence that they're not falling through the cracks? And then think back to the story I told you originally about the company that was getting the phone calls. How confident are you that if you got those same phone calls, would your people answer it correctly better than, only 10% of the time? Remember, they failed 90% of the time. I would urge you to secret shop your own company in this way. Do you do this? Do you sell that? Do you offer that? And if you need some help doing this, you can certainly reach out to us. If you need a few ideas of how that makes sense for your business, you can go to my website at noahfleming.com and reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you. Shawn, do you have anything else to add to that?
My challenge is to ask yourself how you're measuring it. If you answer Noah's question about how confident you are, ask yourself how you're measuring that and how you can test that confidence level. So with the incoming phone calls, are you recording your incoming calls? If so, who's listening to them? How many are being listened to? If you're not, what are you doing in order to check the lead flow and to see what's happening? Remember, if you can't measure it, it won't get done. You can't expect what you don't inspect.
That's right. And just doing this over a 2-week period once a year for the annual sales meeting is not enough, right? This is something you need to be doing regularly. You need to be doing it effectively. You need to make sure that it becomes part of your own internal process to understand and to have that sort of pulse on your business that the right things are getting done. Like Shawn said, it needs to be measured, and you can't expect what you can't inspect. So, Shawn, thank you very much. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. As always, please leave us a review on iTunes. This is very valuable to us. They're certainly very helpful. Otherwise, good luck with your challenge. Let us know how you make out, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us each and every week for another great episode of The Evergreen Show with your hosts, Noah Fleming and Shawn Veltman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on The Evergreen Show.